Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Purple Memoirs. I'm your boy, Wets, and this is the only Prince podcast hosted and produced by Chanhassen natives. And today I have a very special guest, a Minneapolis, St. Paul area makeup and hair designer, and someone that has worked with Prince and been around Prince. Everybody, please welcome Leah.
Yay.
How are you doing?
Good.
How's your day been so far?
Great.
A little bit of a hike to get out here?
Yes, except for the allergies, but yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Long, sketchy drive and the allergies, and you're probably like, where am I going?
Exactly. Didn't want to end up on Dateline.
Oh, I know. It happens more often than not, it seems like, right? So yeah, tell me, what's your connection to Prince in the Minneapolis area?
So part of my family has been in Minneapolis, like Northeast Minneapolis for over 100 years.
Oh, wow.
And I guess my very first connection with Prince is probably junior high, and I worked for his mom.
Oh, wow.
And I was her secretary at my junior high. She was a social worker. And I do the switchboard, so that tells you how old I am. But anyway, and Prince would do like concerts and stuff down the block from my house, which I wasn't allowed to go to. Because I was 13 and his music was, super scandalous.
Especially then, especially the early days.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. And that's like when he came into my life, like that period. So.
And that must have been not only that was just a shock to the whole music industry. I mean, nobody was dressing, especially dressing that way.
Yeah.
Being a black dude in those days is you had to have some balls, and he had the swag, he did it all.
Women weren't even dressing like that, on stage.
Yeah. I mean, the ironic
let alone
part
men
was
in women's clothes.
he would show up like that and leave with your girlfriend, and you're sitting there scratching your head,
In his heels.
In his heels.
And his eyeliner.
And his eyeliner.
I know. With his heart necklace.
Yeah.
I know. I was there.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And I remember one day, because he resembles his mother very much. There was no doubt.
I've seen photos of her, yeah.
Mattie.
I think he looked more like his mother than he did his dad.
Oh, for sure. For sure. Yeah. And so one day I just thought, I'm just, getting it 100% clear because I like the truth, right? And I said, so is Prince really your son? And she goes, yeah. And she said, do you like his music? And then I was like, ooh, I didn't expect that, I'm like, because, yeah, I do like his music.
Yeah. Am
I allowed to listen to it? No.
Yes and no answer, kind of.
I said, yeah. And then I was like, oh, my word. But anyway, so that was my very first encounter with him, and that I wasn't allowed to go to shows.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
shows,
awesome.
if you can even call it that. It was at a park.
Yeah. Yep.
Anyhow, so fast forward, that was like when I was 13. So when I was 17, I graduated from high school.
Okay.
And somehow my best friend and I talked my mother into taking me to a nightclub for my graduation.
Wow.
Like after the ceremony, we went to a nightclub. Okay, that was all fun, but literally, I still, wasn't legal or anything. That was in June, and by
What year would you say this?
That was 1984.
Okay, wow.
So by, 1999 had come out. That was a big deal. By that fall, I was there with the revolution.
Wow. Wow.
Things had changed.
Yeah.
And I also turned 18.
Well,
so
perfect time. I would love to turn 18 in 1984.
It was nuts.
Yeah.
It was nuts. But to go from that, and so also that summer, I went to my first Black Music Awards.
Wow.
And so I'm just thinking it's a party, right? So I wear hot pink pants, this white little crop top, a big blazer.
And it's summertime, I'm guessing?
Summer, yeah. It was probably July.
Okay.
It might have even still been June. I don't know. And at the time, this is going to sound horrible, but I had buckwheat buttons all the way around. That's how I show up to the Black Music Awards. So, okay.
And where did they have the awards at? Do you remember what venue that was at?
Sometimes the Prom Center, sometimes the Carlton.
Okay.
It would depend. But I was schooled immediately, right? People are showing up in limousines, like floor-length furs, And here I am with my buckwheat buttons. I was looking like the craziest white girl, like just crazy.
It's your first award ceremony, though. You
It
know?
was. And the buckwheat reason was I thought he was so adorable. I wanted a little boy that looked just like him. Like, that's where I was coming from. It was all love.
The OG buckwheat?
It was all love, yeah.
That's awesome.
And one of my teachers, one of my English teachers, her uncle was one of the first buckwheats. So
really?
Yeah. So it was like, there was a little depth to it, you know?
Yeah.
Not that I would do it today, but there was a little depth to that. So anyway, that was my first Black Music Award. That was in 84. Then by 85, I went there in a limousine.
Wow.
Sat front row with Prince's brother Omar.
Okay.
And different story. But I mean, my life was just fast-tracked.
Yeah.
You know? Like super fast-tracked.
Hold on 1 second, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
We are going to... Can you take it from the part where you said you sat front row with Omar?
Yeah. So I was sitting in the front row with Omar and just taking it all in. You know, Donnie Simpson from BET was right next to me too.
Awesome.
And I wanted to take a picture with him because I was like, you know, this is my life, right? And with Prince, you just never had cameras around. Like, that just wasn't.
No.
We just didn't, you know? And plus, it was a real camera. You know, who's going to tote that around?
Yeah.
And it just was like, that wasn't. I have a few pictures of things, but yeah, that just wasn't the reality. But I did have my camera there. And Donnie Simpson said no, because he gets in problems with his wife. I'm like,
can't be in the background of any of these photos.
I know. It's like, there's nothing going on with us, you know, like, at all. But I was like, you're stupid. Like, whatever.
That's funny.
Yeah. And so how I ended up in that situation with the revolution is that the summer of 1984, there was 3 guys that asked for my number, wanted to, you know, connect and whatever. And so I was, you know, looking for something to do. So this is, I feel kind of bad that I did this, but it's a true story. I told all 3 of them to meet me at Roller Gardens at a certain time. And whoever came first is the one I go with.
You got to compete for my love, right?
They didn't know that, though.
That's awesome.
They thought they were the only ones that I called. Like, my boyfriend probably doesn't even know that story. But anyway. So he was the first one that showed up, and his brother was in the revolution. So,
oh, wow.
Yeah.
Was that Bobby or Matt?
His brother?
Yeah.
Mark.
Oh, Mark.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. So that's where that journey started. And I got really close to the family, the whole family. Still am pretty close to the family.
A lot of them still in the cities living, or?
A lot of them have passed away now, but there's still a lot of cousins and stuff.
Awesome. So those deep roots there. That's awesome.
Yep.
Nice.
Yeah. And yeah.
So, okay, so that was 84. Okay, so you met him at the roller derby. You got to pick your favorite one out, right?
And my mom's like, why are you wearing a dress roller skating? And I'm like,
you wouldn't understand.
You don't, yeah.
That's awesome.
Just don't
so where did it progress from there? Which one did you choose?
Oh, whoever was first.
Oh, okay.
And he was first, so I left. So the other ones, I don't know if they showed up or not. Like,
Yep.
I wasn't there.
Yeah.
I was gone. And that's the night that I refer to that in one night I wrecked 2 pairs of shoes because my friend borrowed a pair of shoes and we were walking all around like Minnehaha Falls and stuff with dresses and heels. Always 4-inch heels, no matter what. That was my life.
That was the 80s.
Oh, my word. Big hair and heels, no matter what.
That's awesome. Relive those memories.
Yep.
That is awesome.
That was wild.
Yeah, and so that summer of 84, when Purple Rain was released, that's when everything kind of changed, right?
Yeah, so I was asked if I wanted to be in the movie, you know, as just a, you know, whatever, girl. But I didn't because I was like, I'm not wearing purple lingerie in a movie.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
That's not me.
Yeah.
You know, and I mean, at that time period, there was videos being made in Minneapolis all the time. People were just making videos. You know, there was so many musical people there. I mean, Alexander O'Neill at the time, anyone connected to Flight Time and Prince, Maserati, Mercedes.
And there were probably, I was guessing back then, there's probably multiple shows a week, in the week, on the weekends.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and then Giorgio, he was around.
Mm-hmm.
that was a trip.
Oh, yeah. So did you ever make it out to, I guess, his first recording space out on Flying Cloud Drive, the warehouse?
Oh, I was at the warehouse downtown on First Avenue.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's an even earlier one.
That was the first.
Okay.
And that was a trip.
Oh, I bet.
That was a trip. You'd walk in, and before you even got into the main room, you'd just be handed a tambourine.
If you don't grab one, you can't enter, right?
It was just cool. It's like we are not in Kansas anymore.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But that was such a good experience because I never was into drugs, and Prince wasn't, and it was all about the music. I mean, and sex.
Yeah.
But it was about the music.
For sure.
And so in the main room, there was stages set up and instruments.
Yep. Interesting.
And there was so many musicians there. We're just hanging out, partying, It
was like the meetup spot, right?
And different musicians. So you'd have like a different drummer from one band and a guitarist from another band, pianist, get up on stage and just jam. So you'd see these things happening.
That makes sense with him and all those different lineups. I mean, that's probably how he picked out a lot of people. Like, oh.
Yeah, you just see this. And that was the night that I joke around that I was playing music with Prince because I was right. I think the thing that he liked about me is that I was quiet. Mm-hmm. I was not a freak. And I just was kind of funky. Like every time he saw me, I looked totally different.
That's awesome.
And I think we definitely had that in common,
Yeah. And, obviously, like, I've never met him personally, but, I know he can be kind of shy and reserved too,
Yeah.
He probably respected that.
Yeah. It was cool. It was all cool. I had no bad experiences with him whatsoever, but it was the music, the love of music was loud and clear, you know? But this one night in particular, I was just like closer than we are.
Okay.
And he's just on this little like foot-high platform, just pants on and boots, and then this chain around his waist, and I was like, that has to be a necklace because it's so little.
His 20-inch waist, yeah.
And he's playing the guitar, and he just like it was just hilarious. But anyway, I'm playing the tambourine, so technically I was playing with him.
That's awesome.
Story. And it was just him and I, and we're just jamming.
That is awesome.
And I was like, this could have turned out differently tonight. I have a feeling.
Yeah. Oh,
but,
yeah.
I was there with my boyfriend.
So.
But he'd invite me to things, through my boyfriend.
Yeah.
Whatever.
I see.
Yeah. And then if he would see me places just alone, he'd like do his little smirk and whatever. And I remember walking into William's Pub, and I don't know why I was just going up the stairs alone.
Was that the Peanut Bar in Uptown?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. The upstairs part, though, wasn't it? Yeah.
Okay.
And so I was just on the stairs, and he was walking on the other side. And he did that, and the women behind me just lost it. They're like, Prince,
Oh, wow.
And that's just how it would be,
Yeah.
If I would walk places with the band, people would be ripping on your clothes.
Yeah.
Like they just want to touch you. And I'm like, who the heck do you think I am? I don't look like Wendy or Lisa.
Hey, as long as you're within feet of him, that's all that mattered, right?
I know. And then they thought I was this chick from, what was the band called? New Shoes. She was a blonde singer.
Gotcha. That's funny. So when you were jamming with the tambourine, did that turn into anything like, a song or anything? Or was that just kind of a jam and spur of the moment?
Oh, just very spur of the moment. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't even remember the songs he was playing, but
it's probably never the same thing either.
With him, I realized quick, you just got to take it all in because this will probably never happen again.
Yeah.
And I'd see him this one night, he was doing Elvis impersonations.
Okay.
And
funny.
Yeah. You'd get called up at midnight or something. It's like Prince wants to have a party. So we'd all go down to First Avenue.
Wow.
And it would just be whatever.
Yeah. So he'd have his private parties there before he did Paisley.
Yeah, Paisley was not around.
Yeah,
it was the warehouse or First Ave.
Awesome. Yeah, those are the real old school days. That is awesome. So after Purple Rain came out in '84, was there at what point was it like, it was harder to see him? You didn't see him around town as much because he was always traveling, you know, he just kind of, everything kind of changed like a light switch after that album, or?
Yeah, it was, yeah, he was gone a lot. The band was gone. We'd still like, so we would still be around other musicians though. And like Flight Time and Jimmy Jam and stuff like that were still around.
For sure.
Sherelle. I know for a little while we were talking about me being a background singer for Alexander.
Okay, yeah, that's awesome.
And then when I don't remember actually the year that Maserati really started taking off, but me and my boyfriend, you know, because that was really like his brother's band.
Yeah.
But Kiss, the song Kiss was like for them.
Interesting.
And it was, because I remember driving to Duluth in a truck, listening to this tape, and it was Kiss, but it was for them. And it was like the same time George Clinton was here, working with Prince, and then Sly and the Family Stone. Sly was here working with Jesse, and that's when my friend started working with Jesse, and then I did that band's hair.
Awesome.
The review, Jesse Johnson's review. And, but yeah, Kiss. So Maserati, anyhow, Michael and I were like promoting Maserati.
Okay.
So we travel around to different radio stations giving out their T-shirts. I had
Promos,
boxes
like kind of like the
and
street
boxes of
team.
T-shirts. I had so many Maserati T-shirts.
Interesting.
And the cover of their first album was actually like, the idea was from a mannequin of mine from cosmetology school.
Really? Yeah, it's a kind of a creepy cover.
It's really ugly. It's horrible, but it was my mannequin.
Yeah. So what was it like when you did hair for them? Were they really picky? Did they let you?
No, not at all.
How many cans of Aquanet did you go through?
It was more relaxers.
Oh, okay.
Relaxers and curling irons and oil
chemical
sheen.
straightening. And,
yeah.
Okay, that is awesome.
Yeah, lots of that. And that's actually how me and Keith, the one that was the piano player.
Okay.
He, so when he started working for, well, this is a funny story. We're at First Ave, and I'm walking up the stairs, and Keith is walking down the stairs, and we hadn't seen each other since high school at this point. And, you know, we're friends.
Uh-huh.
And that was just a couple years, you know. So he's like, "You're never going to believe this. I got a job. You know, I'm working with Jesse Johnson." He goes, "I'm here with Jesse Johnson's band." And he goes, "Who are you here with?" And I'm like, "Prince and the Revolution."
Oh, one of these, you know.
It was funny.
What an honor, right?
It was all love, you know.
Oh, yeah.
But then from then on, we like got numbers and like stayed in contact. And so I started doing his hair again, or started doing his hair for the first time. And then one of his brothers ended up marrying Toni Braxton from Mint Condition.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So I did his brother's hair. And this is a really cool story. It's not about Prince, but it all is this time and these people.
Yeah, it's all the era. You know?
So when I was doing Keith's hair once in my kitchen, he gave me Mint Condition's first CD, and CDs were brand new.
Interesting.
So he gives me their first CD, totally cool, but I was so broke, I didn't have a CD player for 2 years.
I can only imagine how much they were when they came out.
Yeah. So Mint Condition's my first CD ever. So fast forward many years, my sons were in a band that actually opened for Mint Condition.
Really?
And I'm like, this is so
full circle.
Cool.
Full circle.
It was just cool.
That's awesome.
But there was just, Minneapolis was such a cool place to be growing up.
Yeah.
When that was happening, it was so cool.
Minneapolis in the 80s, they're probably, in my head, I picture Miami, LA, Minneapolis.
And the punk scene was super awesome, too.
Oh, yeah.
Because I was involved in that as well.
Jay's Longhorn and Husker Du, The Replacements.
Yeah. There was a lot.
Yeah, the punk scene, wasn't ever really, I mean, it was talked about, but I feel like not enough credit, or it's not talked about as much as it should be. And I know a lot of it was happening in St. Paul.
I agree.
You know? And, but yeah, there's definitely, that's a whole different, that's a whole thing in its own, you know? So that's awesome, though. But it was weird because back then, the new wave, the punk, and kind of Prince's early stuff, I could see where everything was kind of blended together in a weird way.
Sure.
You know? Or if it was just all alternative at the end of the day.
Yeah. So I was at the lake, I think it was Lake Harriet music festival. I think that's what it was called. It's in St. Paul.
Okay.
Is that right? Is that,
yeah, I think because there's the
or Harriet Island.
Harriet Island. That's what I was thinking.
Is that in
of.
St. Paul?
Yeah, and I think they have the big festival every year.
Yes, so that's what it was. That's where my boys opened.
Okay.
Or for Mint Condition. But
nice.
I was there seeing Whitney Houston.
Okay.
Back, like, when her hair was long and curly.
Yeah.
That time period,
That's the
I
Whitney
want
I
to dance
remember.
with somebody.
Yep.
That tour. Okay, so I'm there with Michael, Prince guy, and I ran into my old punk boyfriend.
Uh-oh.
And he was in a band called Skull something that turned into Iron Fist. But he's like, we got to write up in Rolling Stone. And I'm like, how am I around all these people that are really making it happen?
Yep. Yep.
I had a lot of really cool friends that were serious. I think as a group of young people, we were just serious about doing our thing. I started cutting people's hair when I was 11.
Wow.
Still am doing it, 43 years later.
Yeah, it's like what was in the water in Minneapolis in those days.
I know. It was, everybody was just doing their thing.
Yeah, that was definitely the place to be at that time.
It was.
Wow.
It was cool.
That is awesome. So, so after that, so when it became, I would say, I don't know, later 80s, early 90s, were you around, go to the Glam Slam, any of those parties?
Okay, so during that period of my life, I wasn't. I was not. I was being a mom. I was not hanging around Prince. I wasn't doing any of that stuff. I think the next time I saw him, boy, that was probably in the 96, 97.
Okay.
98 maybe.
Gotcha.
Something like that.
Did you ever go out to Paisley Park for the parties?
No, I didn't, because I kind of like, I don't know.
It just felt different era,
It's very different. It was a different group of people too.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Because you were there more in like the roots, in like the
and
foundation.
I don't want to say the real musicians, because I don't mean that, but like the OGs.
Yes. Yes.
And it was different now.
Yes.
Prince was different now.
Yes,
the whole
for sure.
thing was different, and it was fine. It wasn't like I'm never going out there kind of thing. But it was just different.
And of course it was farther out, and it wasn't as accessible, like,
Yeah, and it's also different. Like, if I can't be, front and center, I don't know if I want to go.
Yeah. Yeah. You know what you want.
I'm not a groupie. Yeah. I never was a groupie. It's like, that's just not how I roll.
Yeah.
So it's like either I'm with the real people or I'll pass.
I don't want to show up as a fan. Yeah.
No, and I don't mean that in any bad way.
Because, well, if you were with them before and you showed up as a fan later, you'd feel kind of like you downgraded or something.
I know. Exactly.
I get that
and
feeling.
I'm not.
Yeah.
And the very last thing that I, did is I was at his funeral. That was beautiful. The one here. That was beautiful.
Wow. Yeah. I've seen, I wasn't at the funeral, but I did see, I got to see his urn, the Paisley Park urn. They had it on display at Paisley Park for maybe the first year after not the first year after he died, like the first year when they started doing the tours. They had the urn. I went back a couple years later and it was gone. And I think the family has it somewhere, but it was a mini Paisley Park was the urn, and he was in there, and it was pretty cool. But
yeah, I later became very good friends with Larry Graham's daughter.
Oh yeah.
And I do her hair and her mom's hair, and Larry and his wife. They're great. I love them, and awesome. I love Latia and everything. And
I'm trying to get him on. I have a couple people that know him through growing up in Chan and stuff like that, and I know he still lives out there.
Yeah.
But I was wondering, how did you hear about Prince's death, and how did you feel when you heard about it?
Oh, it was from mutual friends. Well, I knew something was going on before that because of just mutual friends, and like stuff was not good, and yeah. So, but I still was shocked that he died.
Yeah.
That was like.
You didn't think it was that crazy, like that bad, right?
No,
yeah.
And it's like, no matter how crazy it is, you've got money, you've got good people, like you can get this together.
For sure.
And so when he died, it was just really like awful.
Yeah.
Just so.
Yeah, it was a shock to everybody.
Total shock. I felt very bad for Larry. Yeah, just total shock.
Yeah, it still doesn't seem real.
No,
No.
No.
Still doesn't seem real at all.
So I'm the same religion that Prince was, and we believe in a resurrection. 100%.
Only one birthday.
Yeah.
Yeah,
only
I
one
do know,
birthday.
I do know that.
Yep. And so I have no doubt in my mind I'll see him again and be with him, and we'll get to play music together
that's
again.
awesome. So,
On earth.
speaking
not
of your
in heaven.
religion, is that how you know Larry?
Yeah. Well, I know Larry through his daughter, through hair.
Okay.
But I probably know her through my religion.
Gotcha.
Probably.
And Larry was kind of the one that got Prince.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, okay, so Larry's the one that like taught him a lot.
Okay.
But Mark also was affiliated with it.
Okay, interesting.
And then someone even before that was Michael Jackson.
Yeah.
So Michael Jackson also exposed Prince to the religion and everything.
Interesting.
And obviously he took a detour.
Yeah, and well, I've never really ever heard. I feel like Prince was a little more out in public with his religion and beliefs, and I feel like Michael didn't really ever talk about it in person.
There was some stuff, but I think honestly, before all of this, I was like Camp Michael Jackson.
Yeah.
And I think the media just pitted them, and there never was a rivalry.
No,
there never was.
no.
But that's you were either are you this camp, Nike or Adidas.
And what always upset me is they were just like apples and oranges. They were two different.
Exactly.
I mean, I just think them both being young, that era, and being black is like,
we
got to put them like,
yeah.
But
They're
just
so different.
Totally different.
But they're both so talented,
And for sure.
And it's just so happens that they had some of the same religious background. Michael definitely left, but he still has relatives that are.
Yeah.
And everything. And so, yeah, that's probably somehow how it all came together. I mean, I did go to school with some people and whatever, but yeah, it's, I don't know, but I guess, so when you asked me about how I felt when he died, that circles back to the resurrection thing.
Yeah.
Because
So you had a different way to look at it, maybe
I did.
Some people.
I was totally like literally in shock, and it took a long time to just be like, he's not here. He's not here.
Was there any weird sort of like sense of like relief or peace at the same time?
Yes, because I thought of like, I knew George Floyd too, ironically.
Oh, yeah?
But that whole thing, I think, would have tore him up, seeing his city on fire.
Oh my God.
And his sensitivity to everything.
He'd be rolling in his grave.
Yeah, and I'm just glad he didn't have to deal with that. I feel like to me, he was in a very fragile state physically.
Yeah.
Even mentally, as far as what pain does to you, chronic pain.
Oh yeah.
And I just feel like I'm so glad he didn't have to go through that because he's at peace.
Yeah.
And so I was relieved that way. And
he did that just to keep everyone happy, just to keep the show going.
Yeah.
And it's kind of,
and we still talk about him all the time. And like, we don't talk about him like he's gone. It's just like, we're going to see him.
Yep, exactly. That's an awesome way to look at it. So did you and Prince ever talk about religion together or have that chance?
No,
or?
I didn't talk to him about it. No, the other members I did, but not
right
him.
on. Yeah, a lot of people don't know, but
well, he wasn't when I was with him. He wasn't.
Yeah, I see. You were before that,
right? I mean, he had been influenced by other things, but he wasn't in it yet. Yeah,
I was much later in the story.
Yeah, and then when that was going on, I wasn't around him, in the Paisley Park.
Yeah, it's really funny because me and Tony, the producer, growing up in Chanhassen. I don't know if you might have known this. A lot of people don't know, but occasionally he would go door to door and do his services.
I know that. Yeah.
And Brother Nelson coming out the door,
Yep.
and I wasn't lucky enough to open the door to him, but I could only imagine.
Yeah. I know when he died. For several years after that, at work, I'd always put a purple bouquet and everything, and then I'd leave out some little pamphlets about the resurrection and tell people this is what his hope was.
Yeah.
And when people, initially when people were so broken, I would just walk around places, and when I could tell that they, they're all in purple from head to toe
Oh,
or whatever,
my God.
I would just give them to him and be like, this is his belief,
Mm-hmm.
It's like, it's not, it's a positive thing.
Yes.
We're going to see him again.
Yep.
So, don't.
He's on to part 2.
Yeah,
know?
yeah, exactly.
The bigger, yeah. That's an awesome way to look at it too, and especially like you can give it to people and kind of explain like he wouldn't want you to feel this way, but he would want you to feel this way.
He would. He'd want you to believe it too, because it's such a beautiful hope.
That's awesome.
And to think like he will be able to, play with Beethoven, or you think about all the people that influenced him.
Oh yeah.
When everybody's back, the jam sessions are going to be unreal.
Oh yeah. It was always weird because in the end days when he was doing the whole Third Eye Girl thing, it was almost like, I don't know if he sensed it was coming, but it was almost like he reverted back to a childhood version of himself, his hair,
the sneakers.
Everything goes in a full circle,
Yeah.
And it's just like, I wonder if he knew something we didn't know, or it was just getting ready, or it's weird, but
yeah.
it's interesting to think about,
Yeah. I think the pain really did a lot to him.
Yeah. And it sucks because I feel like with his religion and like things like, I feel like he was probably put in a lot of situations where he didn't know what to do. You know what I mean? It's like, I got pain, but I got my beliefs. This might go against my beliefs. Like, what do I do? I got to keep the show going.
Yeah, that was a thing too that I read somewhere that I thought was interesting, because it's not against our religion to have surgery or like for him to have hip surgery or replacement or anything. So I think somewhere some of that got a little twisted up about beliefs.
Yeah, and it's probably from people that aren't part of the religion that are putting those facts out.
I think so, because it's not.
It's always that way.
Yeah, it's not true. Like, we don't take blood transfusions.
Okay.
But there's tons of things that you can take to,
And you don't necessarily need a
that.
transfusion
Exactly.
if you have surgery.
Exactly. But surgery, like, I've had 2 joint replacements myself. That's absolutely not part of our religion, and going to doctors is very encouraged. But I think it got twisted somewhere, and people ran with it because people have said that, and I'm like, that's not true.
Yeah.
But
and of course, if you get like the joints and the hips replaced, like you're probably still always going to be in pain the rest of your life. Might not be as bad. Maybe sometimes it's worse after the surgeries.
For sure.
So
yeah.
But he definitely did what he had to do to keep the show going.
He did. He was a showman.
He was a
and
busy
Michael
bee.
Jackson too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, I know this is about Prince, but they were, just both amazing.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Just amazing.
No, it's totally cool. I like talking about them both because they both, it's so weird because they both, got big, late 70s. They're not far in age.
Yep.
They didn't die that far in age.
Yeah.
They're the same religion for a lot of their lives. And it's just kind of like, there's this like unspoken connection where, and I think they really deeply respected each other.
Yeah.
And, and obviously I think if they were brothers and, in a family, I think Prince would be the one picking on and playing the jokes.
Oh, yeah.
And Michael would be the one running to tell mom or something.
Yep.
And I just think that's how it is. But like you said, the media, that's totally different, and, it's, they like to put them against each other, but we all know that they were just their own entities,
Yeah.
So that's awesome. So, do you still see any of the old people from that scene regularly around town and stuff?
Not around town, because not too many people live around here anymore.
Yeah, you're right. Or
California. I'm gonna see, one of my friends in California next month.
Awesome.
And then, and I'm really curious to see like all the music and stuff he's producing. 'Cause
Yeah.
I'm just so excited about that, and I'm also gonna see one of the punk guys when I'm out there too.
Oh, cool.
Because he went from music. He still is a musician, but he's an artist, a very well-known artist out there. So,
wow.
And we were in art class together.
Oh, even better.
So that'll be
Only
fun.
the best artists come from Minneapolis.
That's right. I still have connections with some people from that time period for sure, because they were my friends.
Oh, yeah. It was more. They just happened to be in that scene, but they're your friends before that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't. I didn't make any friends because of Prince. I if anything, I had clients because of Prince or whatever. But my friends are my friends.
And whether you knew these people, you would probably still be going to these shows at this time anyway.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I always see people like Jelly Bean Johnson.
Oh, yeah.
When he sees me, you know, he'll be like, I haven't seen you in like 10 years. And it's been like 20 years at least. But,
Yeah.
you know, you always see people like that. He's still around.
Oh, yeah. I see him play.
Jesse's still around.
Jelly Bean. I haven't lived in Northeast in a handful of years. I lived over by Grumpy's and Jimmy's.
Oh, yeah,
I can't think of that side shape. But I used to see him all the time at Shaw's.
Yes.
I love going there just in the middle of the night or middle of the week on like a Wednesday. Go there. Minneapolis for you.
Yep.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah. It's still popping over there.
Yeah. It's weird though now because I feel like, I don't know, even compared to 20 years ago, I don't feel the amount of shows and action happening in Minneapolis like it used to, you know? But I don't know, maybe it's just in a weird cycle, but I think it'll come back.
I'm waiting for some new energy.
We need more like smaller clubs in the city. I mean, it's nice to have bigger venues, I guess, but sometimes those more intimate, smaller venues is where the magic really happens, you know? Like the Entry and places like that size.
Yep.
You know? But
yeah, and things can't be so expensive.
That's another thing, too.
You know?
That's another thing,
because you want the young people.
Yes.
And if you are trying to draw artists and young creative people, those are not your wealthy people.
They're not the rich people. No, exactly.
You're going to get a completely different kind of people. And yeah.
You make it unattainable, then nobody can attain it. Nobody's going to even want to, you know? So.
Yeah, and artists, musicians, they stick together. You know, and Minneapolis and St. Paul is such a network.
Minneapolis is so tight knit, and that's what I love about it. And it's another thing is like, you know, you can go to any city, any country in the world, and you'll see some sort of Minneapolis or Prince reference. I mean, it happens all the time.
Yeah.
Whenever the producer of the show is back in LA for work, I'll get random texts and stuff, and it'll be like, you know, the Prince symbol on the outside of like a bathroom in LA in a swanky restaurant, and it's just like. You just can't avoid it, you know?
No.
Here it's normalized, you know? It's just part of who we are and where we live. But, like, it's one of those things you don't realize how big it is until you leave.
Yeah.
Did you ever, in the 80s, did you ever travel far outside of Minnesota and see, like, I'm from there, you know? See print references, Minnesota references, Minneapolis?
Yeah, I definitely did. I do remember one time in New York, though, I told someone I'm from Minneapolis, and they're like, do you have cows there? I'm like, I said, no, we have Prince.
Move a little closer to my
We have Prince.
Yeah.
We don't have cows, we have Prince.
Well, when he built Paisley Park, it was like farmland.
I'm like, Minneapolis? I'm like, I'm not talking to you anymore. Like,
or they think it's an iceberg 24/7, and I'm like, yeah, no, you just got to go. But Minnesota and Minneapolis at the same time, I think was one of those like kept secret kind of things.
Yeah.
Because anyone that's ever come here, at least in the nice seasons, love it.
I know. I was really glad, kind of, when we had the Super Bowl here. That it was so freezing cold.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's like, don't move here. Just keep walking.
Come, you can spend your money, but don't stay. Yeah. Yeah, that was weird, too. But that was an interesting... Super Bowl. Still wasn't, you know, as good as Prince's Super Bowl performance.
Oh, that's still the best.
Epic.
It's
People
the best.
are still talking about it.
I know.
You know?
It is. It makes me proud.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and I guess because I was so young and it was just my life and I was just thrown into it and I didn't realize, I did realize how awesome it was, you know, and I took it all in.
It's one of those things where, like, as it was happening, do you realize, like, this is cool or this is normal?
I didn't think it was normal. I did not think any of it was normal at all. But I realized how cool it was. I realized, you know, I don't have pictures of this. I got to take it into my head and, you know, write about it and whatever. But that it really set a high bar for everything else after.
Oh, yeah, I can imagine. I couldn't imagine going, you know, getting home from school or just getting home from wherever, turning on MTV and seeing Little Red Corvette and then going out that night and seeing him.
Yeah.
Like, I couldn't imagine how that would be.
Yeah, it was very much like that. You'd watch MTV, you know, and you'd get a call, oh, do you want to be in Alexander's video? You know, or whatever, so-and-so shooting a video. You know, do you want to come down? It was real. That was it.
Wow.
You know? And then this is pretty cool. I used to clean Mark's house because, you know, he didn't trust
many people
because the girls were just nuts, you know. And so I'd clean his house, and I remember he had Giorgio was staying there for a while, So I was like, oh, I've got Giorgio's underwear.
Ye-
Put this on eBay.
and you know, that's what you worried about, you know?
And then there was this little, I was not snooping, mind you, not snooping.
It just happened to be out in the
No,
open.
I was cleaning, but I found this phone book, little black book.
Oh.
Like legit little
like a
black
real
book.
black book.
It was. And I looked at it, of course, and it had more famous people than I've ever seen. You know?
Good thing you didn't have a camera phone.
I know.
Oh, man.
But anyhow, then he had it in categories like musicians, you know, horn players, drummers, whatever. But then
Wow.
singers, girls, you know. But I couldn't care less about the girls. Like
Yeah.
I wasn't here for the girl.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not one of them.
Yeah.
But it was the musicians, and I was like, this.
It's like the Holy Grail.
I know. I felt like my hand's gonna melt. You know?
Yeah. Wow.
That was
is
pretty cool, though.
Awesome.
And the fact that it was a legit black book. you know?
Yeah, that's
And then
funny.
holding a Grammy, just dusting Grammys, you know.
That's funny, yeah.
Dusting the platinum albums. And yeah, it was something else.
I don't have a black book or anything from Prince's house, but you know we do have Prince's basketball hoop from his property on Galpin.
Nice.
Right here.
Very nice.
But
Nice.
that is awesome though. But yeah, I mean, I could have seen they probably wouldn't have trusted a lot of people.
No.
You know,
Yeah.
so that's a funny experience. And those are the kind of stories we like on the show.
Yeah.
I mean, those are the ones that are, you know, people think about throughout the day and stuff. You know, but that's awesome. So what are you doing now? Are you still in the hair and makeup business?
Yep.
Awesome.
I am.
You work in Minneapolis, work in the city
Yeah,
still?
I work in Northeast.
Nice.
Northeast.
Nordies, OG Nordies.
Yep.
Cool. Awesome. I don't know. I think that might be a good spot to wrap the show up for today. I had a great time. I'm glad you came out.
Yeah.
And, I still can't believe, you know, have a lot of the stories you were telling me. They'll just be replaying in my mind for a while. So
They're all true.
they're all true. You heard that. Thank you.